Hi, welcome to the Shelly Studio. Today I'm working on a few more of my 100 days project. I don't know if I can count it as 100 days, it's more like 100 pieces of art. And today I'm in the pinks. And I'm pretty sure that paint had pink in the name, so that's why I used it. I I think I might have taken a picture, so if I did, I will list all the colors in the description box below that I use in this grouping of paint. I hope I took a picture. This one's obviously high flow fluorescent pink. Um, so the colors of today is pink. And this is inspired by the book The Secret Lives of Color by Cassia St. Clair. So I've been doing each of her sections of color for 10, I want to say 10 days, but it's 10 pieces of art because obviously you can tell I'm doing 4 at a time. There was the white and the yellow, orange, and now the pink. And the pink colors that are in the chapter are Baker Miller pink, Mountain Batten pink, puce, fuchsia, shocking pink, fluorescent pink, and amaranth. And of course, all I did was just grab all my pinks that I have in different types of paint. Like the high flow was Goldens. I have some Liquitex, that first weird color. That could count as puce. Was Liquitex. And then I've got, and this is Daler-Rowney pink. And I'm sure there was Apple Barrel and what's the other craft paint you can get at Walmart? Deco Arts, that's the one. Couldn't think of it. So, like I said, today is pink. And did you know that pink has not always been the color for girls and blue for boys? Um, in her book, she mentions that, amazingly enough, the strict girl pink, boy blue divide only dates from the mid 20th century. So, just a few generations ago, it was completely different. There was an article in 1893 where the rule stated that you should always give pink to a boy and blue to a girl. And then in 1918, getting closer to, just, a little over 100 years ago. That seems so long ago. There was a trade publication that affirmed that this was the generally accepted rule because pink was more decided and a stronger color, while blue was more delicate and dainty. Do we feel that way? Times change, I guess. They theorized that this was probably closer to the real explanation, that pink is, after all, just a faded red in the era where scarlet jacketed soldiers, red robed cardinals were the most masculine color, while blue was the signature hue of the Virgin Mary. And at the turn of the century, even the idea of different clothes colors for children was a little odd. All little ones were dressed the same. So, yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. I, you know, I've seen boys wear pink shirts, um, but I guess I should say guys, more when they're older, right? Wear pink shirts. So, I'm collaging on some of my little bits and pieces that I have. Some of these, like the piece that's going on there right now, is a piece of a gel print, and then the piece that's going over the top of that was actually a sticker I made, um, and obviously smeared stuff right there. Um, But yeah, I painted some stickers up, and I hardly ever use them, so they had pink in them. I threw them in here. Um, but one of the other pinks, which I thought was interesting, was Baker Miller pink. And I don't know if you know anything about color, you might have heard about this one. I vaguely remember hearing something about this one, not by the name, but by the study. So, in the late 1970s, America cities were having um, a crime wave, like a drug epidemic and spiking violent crime rates. And so, in the late 1979, a professor announced that he had found a way to make people less aggressive. And it was Alexander G. Schaus announced in the pages of Orthomolecular Psychiatry that a sickly shade of bright pink would make aggressive people less aggressive. Like, he did studies and tested, and most of the men that were shown, like, they looked at like half of them looked at, I think it was just a piece of cardboard for a minute. One half looked at a deep blue piece of cardboard, and the other half looked at the pink piece of cardboard. And all but two of the men shown the pink cardboard were weaker than average. Um, they ended up testing it more thoroughly and stuff after that, but I just thought that was really interesting. Well, there were two commanding officers at the U.S. Naval Correctional Center in Seattle, Gene Baker and Ron Miller, who decided to turn one of their holding cells pink to see if it would have an effect on their prisoners. So they carefully added 1 pint of semi-gloss red trim paint to a gallon of pure white latex paint in order to obtain the perfect Pepto-Bismol shade, and set to work coating the walls and ceiling and the ironwork of the cell. Now, before this, violence had been a whale of a problem, quoted by Baker, but over the next 156 days, there wasn't a single incident. Similar results were reported in a youth center in San Bernardino. In fact, they started using it in a lot of places, and eventually, though, it had to be taken out because um, it was affecting more than them. And sports teams caught on and started painting the visitors' dressing room in that shade of pink. And they put a stop to that by making a rule. You could paint that room any color you wanted as long as the home team's room was the same color. So, to keep everything fair. And of course, they dubbed that shade of pink Baker Miller pink, but because of those two um, officers who did that in their correctional facility. Thought that was interesting. This little teeny stencil that I'm using was when you order from PM Artist Studios, they give you like a little mini stencil. So that's what that little teeny one was. And that multi-dot stencil is also one of theirs. That one was with a purchase over a certain dollar amount, but I think it's out there where you can buy it regular now. So if you're interested, I'll put PM Artist Studio in the description box below, so you can go check them out. Yeah. So, what are you thinking? How do you like pink? It seems so weird to go from one color to the next, into the next, into the next. It's been kind of fun. I'm just trying to doodle a little bit in the different. I just feel like I need something as a focal image on these. One of the ones I posted in the orange. I think I was still in the orange. Somebody commented, said, these would make nice backgrounds for cards. They would make nice backgrounds. I need a focal point, I guess. Those dots are not very straight, are they? Oh, I love this part, taking off the tape. Except for I've got to be more careful. Like, I've torn a couple when I've been peeling them off. I need to do a better job. And I can't remember what numbers I'm on in this video. But how are you liking this series? Are you enjoying it? I think it's a lot of fun. I've been reading so much about color. Oh, and this spot right here. So I've been trying really hard to, when I collage something on, to not get on the tape, but I got on the tape there. So I'm going to just take my X-Acto knife and just lightly cut right along the edge of the tape. Trying to do it without sticking my head in front of the camera to get real close to that to see where I'm at. But that should do the trick, and I should be able to peel that tape back now. I try to avoid having to do that, but sometimes it just happens. So here are those 4, and I've got 4 more if you want to stick around, and I'll tell you about the color puce. Excuse me, I got to sip a little water. So, in the summer of 1775, 20-year-old Marie Antoinette, she'd been Queen of France for 1 year, and her reign was not going well. In the spring, there were riots over the price of grain. These are known as the Flour Wars, and things just weren't going well. There were rumor mongers also told tales of her wild gambling, and her closets were stuffed with expensive clothes and hats. And to her starving subjects, this was just galling. And alarmed at the reports from France, her mother, Empress Maria Theresa, wrote to scold her daughter for her extravagances of fashion, telling her that she was hurtling towards an abyss. The Queen, she wrote, only degrades herself through unthrifty expenditure, especially in such a difficult time. But the Queen would not listen. So her husband, Louis what is that? He was the 16th? Sensing his wife's sartorial indulgences were dangerously unseeming, was less than thrilled when he found her trying on a new lutestring gown in a particular shade somewhere between brown, pink, and gray. Had he been feeling more chivalrous, he might have called it faded rose, but instead he observed that it resembled the color couleur de puce. I didn't know what puce meant, but apparently it's the color of fleas. If it had been the king's intention to shame his wife, though, his words backfired. The next day, recalled Baron d'Auberkirk, every lady at court wore a puce-colored gown. Old puce, young puce, votre de puce, flea's belly, dos de puce, or flea's back. And there's my puce. Well, yeah. It's as close as I can come to puce. I'm adding a little, okay, Can't remember what that one's called either. Like I said, I will list the colors down below. And if you're interested in the playlist of my previous pieces that I've done, I'll have a link in that in the description box below as well. And yeah. So there are several other colors in here, fuchsia being one of them. And that was named after that it's a flower. And there's, let's see, it was voted one of the least popular colors in Britain in 1998. And has been the bane of spelling bee entrants for years. Fuchsia. Does anybody know how it's spelled? Yeah. Google it. So there was, I guess, a botanist named Fuchs. Well, is it Fuchs? Leonhard Fuchs. He was studying to become a physician in Bavaria, began his own researches into plants, and he created a compendium, like a book. It was illustrated. There was like 512 images. He hired artists to work on them, described 400 wild and 100 cultivated plants, fuchsia not being one of them. So later, that plant was discovered growing wild on an island of Hispaniola in the Caribbean. The man who found it was Pierre Charles Plumier, and he was a botanist, and wanting to honor his hero, named it in Fuchsia's honor. Just a little tidbit there. And fluorescent pink, I feel like a lot of the stuff I've been doing is really bright, but there's some brighter colors. But fluorescent pink is one of it. Fluorescent colors were a hot new thing in the 1970s. They were amped up versions of the bright colors beloved by advertisers and pop artists of the 1960s. In 1972, Crayola introduced a special edition box of 8 fluorescent crayons. The ultra pink and hot magenta colors, all of which glowed brightly under a black light. So most of the colors we think of as fluorescent are actually just high intensity hues, but true fluorescents are so bright that not only because the colors are very saturated, but also because the chemical structure of the dye or material absorbs the very shortwave light in ultraviolet portion of the spectrum, which humans can't see, and re-emits it as a longer wavelength, which we can. This is what gives them that particular glowing brightness in daylight, and is also why they shine under black lights. The favorite use of this technology worldwide is the Humble Highlighter pen. Created in the 1960s, highlighters were originally just felt tip with thin water-based inks that allowed the text to show through. A decade later, fluorescence dyes were added to the highlighters to make the portions of text they brush over seem even more attention-grabbing. Stabilo has sold over 2 billion highlighters to date, and although they are available in ever-proliferating arrays of color, guess who the two head and shoulders above the rest colors are? 85% of the cells go to, drumroll please, yellow and pink. I do like those the best. At work, when I'm using a highlighter, my main highlighter is yellow because I feel like it's the brightest. Pink, I use sometimes. But I also have a green highlighter, a blue highlighter, and and a orange highlighter, and those ones aren't as bright. So, yeah, I don't use those as much. So, yeah, I don't know if you, and I mean, some people have said they like me telling about the colors. Hopefully, Cassia St. Clair doesn't mind reading little excerpts out of her book. But yeah, I've really enjoyed reading her book. I'll have that linked. It's an Amazon affiliate link down below as well, in case you're interested in it. I have not told every story in there. I probably picked the most interesting, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, it's been fun. And I'm not even halfway yet, so like I said, I don't remember what number I'm on. Um, I no longer film me stamping the number on the card, but it'll be on the pictures, so we'll know here in a minute. But if you are liking this, think about giving me a thumbs up or leave me a comment. If you have any questions, you can leave me a question in the comments. I respond to all of them, so if not, if you have a difficult question I don't know the answer to, I'll find it for you, even if I have to ask somebody else. um, but yeah, if you want to see the others, the playlist is down below. All the information that I can think of will be down below. And here we go, the big reveal. And I think this is the end of the pinks. I think I move on to the next color. Anybody hazard a guess what the next color is going to be? Yeah, because this goes up to number 40. So 41 will be the start of a new color. I think it's red, because I thought red was coming next and pink hopped in there. So yeah, that will be next week. Anyways, thank you all for watching. If you made it to the end, I really appreciate it. If you liked this, share it with your friends. Let them know there's something to see here. And I hope you all have an awesome day.